And we got the video rolling, John. HAM Weeknd Mailbag is here again, baby. You, me, and our boy Fitzmagic living his best life at Augusta.
Does that look like it was contemplating retirement because he was only getting $7 million and then he got the $10 million guaranteed and now he's just living?
I mean, talk about just life, huh?
I mean, that guy's living, bro. That guy's living.
He's got the chair. You know, they say at Augusta, right, you put the chair down, no one moves it. But right now, it's like the seating is – you could argue if you're in this event or even if you're in the last Masters, it's one of the most memorable sporting events you'll ever attend because the crowd is so small.
Have you noticed some of the holes, how great the fan, the opportunity to just watch shit is? You know, typically you and I went to U.S. Open a couple years ago. You can't even move.
No, can't.
And here it's like you could – he might just be on that could be like hole 16 or hole 18. Like he could be – you just sit wherever you want.
He could get up and walk with a group and still have a place to sit on every hole.
100%. I saw yesterday the responses. Maybe the Chiefs retweeted it and how did Mahomes and Kelsey get tickets? How do you think?
How did Trevor Lawrence get tickets?
I did read the way that they got them is obviously Adidas. You know, I mean, some that has a big Patrick Mahomes has a deal with Adidas, and
gotcha.
Adidas has, if you notice, some players in the Masters. So I would imagine Nike and some of those people get some slots.
I would imagine they'll take some photos of Mahomes wearing some cool Adidas sneakers, and it pays for itself.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Mailbag. It's very simple. You go to iTunes. You leave us a review on iTunes. In that review, you leave a question, and that is where all these mailbag questions come from. This particular mailbag, if you're listening to the podcast, which will come out on Saturday, this one's live on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, we will get to some of your questions at the end of the mailbag, but iTunes mailbag questions get the first crack at this mailbag.
Yep, live on the tube. Brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. Download the app, promo code HAM. Our friends at mybookie.ag. I'm not going to win a single dollar on this tournament, but it's been fun. Promo code HAM1, mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. And our friends at American Giant. American-Giant, 15% off, hoodies, V-necks, regular T-shirts, you name it. I got a pair of sweatpants actually in my bedroom right now. American-Giant.
Can I show you something? Joggers. Normally, when you're doing an advertisement for a product, you show the product.
Yeah.
But today, it's the end of the week. I've worn all the American Giant T-shirts I have. I'm wearing a different company, and look how bad this collar is.
Oh,
it's like what is that? Huh? I mean, this might as well be a V-neck. American Giant. I've washed several times. The collar on the T-shirt stays strong. So
tell us the company.
I will not tell you the company because these are actually American-made too, but just not made as well.
No, they're not.
Try to go American-made when I can. Luckily, American Giant hits you with the American-made and the high-quality product. All right. I can already see the YouTube comments are streaming in, so we'll have to get to some of those. We've got a ton of mailbag questions, John. So without further ado, let's dive in. Here we go. Mailbag question number 1. This comes from Jay Shelby. Says, question, with all the Mac Jones talk to the Niners, would it be an all-time smokescreen if the Niners ended up drafting Lance or Fields? Is there a past draft smokescreen that compares to this? Closest I can think of is NFL people believing the Browns would take Darnold or Allen, and then a couple days before it was leaked that Baker would be the pick. Perhaps the draft narrative will change once Kyle and John attend Fields or Lance's second pro day. 5 stars, promo code HAM. Really, didn't the Baker thing change once Baker did the photo, like the Brett Favre recreation photo, when there was some Cleveland hints in the photo? Do you remember that? Remember the famous photo of Brett taking the call wearing jorts?
Mm-hmm. I remember
Baker do that, and there was some Cleveland hints in the photo, and that's.
I thought we found out maybe Wednesday.
Okay.
Of that week, and maybe he did that Wednesday afternoon. Did he do that before the draft, that photo?
The photo I thought was before the draft, yeah.
Yeah, and you're saying there was a Jim Brown picture in the background?
Yeah,
so maybe
you
kind of
some, I don't know, like a photo of the Dave and Buster's from downtown Cleveland, or I don't know.
I truly don't know, besides just fucking with people, which I'd never blame anyone for doing because it's pretty easy to play the media who then plays the fans like a fiddle. But I don't really quite get this one, but clearly the messaging is pretty strong where it's, that it's going to be Mac Jones, right?
Yeah, and look, it's funny because I was thinking about this. The messaging is really strong that Zach Wilson's going to the Jets, and none of us are like, no, smoke screens. But with Mac, we're like, well, there must be something else.
Well, because I think the major difference, though, is Zach Wilson was considered the number 2 quarterback during the season, and definitely once the season ended.
Once it ended.
The Mac Jones thing is pretty insane.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
most people.
But now they're drafting third. There's no reason for a smokescreen anymore.
You wouldn't think. I do think the league likes it. I think this draft. There is no television show beside football things that do over 10 million people over the last couple years. I saw the Gonzaga Baylor game did 17 million, which is a ton, right? I mean, that's a huge number for a non-football event. I think this draft Thursday night, is it crazy to think like 25 million people? I think it's going to be historically large
on our YouTube stream.
Well, I think the draft, just the product, is going to be a historically rated NFL draft.
All right, here we go. I'm with you. Why not?
Do you agree? I think
Yes,
the
why
interest
not?
is out of control. Every team, like you could meet like a random like Carolina fan. Like, what do you think we're going to do? Right? I mean, it's just people care.
Well, remember, I had the theory last year that because this college football season would be so weird, that the draft values would be thrown off because you'd have players that didn't play and players that only played in 4 games. Not only is that not – I mean, maybe there will be some more misses. We'll see. I doubt it. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think this draft will look like all the rest of the drafts in terms of the percentage of players that hit. But it does feel like that there is just as much – but there's no less buzz for this draft than there is for a draft after a full season. Put it that way.
Everyone ended up playing, though, right? Beside a couple opt-out guys that were elite.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because for a minute, 2 conferences weren't going to play, and then they ended up playing games.
I mean, Jamar Chase didn't play, right? That was
but my point is, beside
was,
the elite opt-out guys, Sewell, Chase, and then the guys that like J.C. Horn and some of the guys like 3-4 games in were like, yeah, we suck, I'm out.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
It actually kind of
the second tier.
I don't think it's quite as crazy as we thought it was going to be. To me, the only thing crazy is if a guy had a bad game. And I've been saying this for a while and just thinking about it for a while. Like, did they practice that week? What was he missing? Like his right guard and his tight end.
Like
those
about Davis Mills before they opened his first game against Colorado. You know, John.
100. But he's missed a ton of games.
I know, and
he on the internet today. You see him. He's buzzing.
He is buzzing. I could tell you. Here's my one thing on Davis Mills because Schrager put him in the first round.
To who?
In his mock draft. I don't remember. Someone just told me he was in the first round. To me, you could make the argument 32 picks in the first round. There may not be 32 players with first-round grades on most draft boards, right? You've always said there's usually like 20, right? Or 22 or something like that.
So, I mean, Schneider says there's like 16 typically on his board.
So you got to draft somebody. Why not draft a quarterback at the end of the first round that you don't have a first-round grade on, but you think if he had played another year in college could be a first-round pick?
How many ACLs did he have? What were his injuries?
Huh?
What were his injuries?
He had a knee injury early, maybe out of high school. He had another knee last year, not a full ACL tear. I don't think he had like a surgery. I don't think. But he's had 2 knee injuries that have cost him games. Yeah. All right, next up. This is from Mike P. This is a long one, so I'll try to cut it down. I may be trying to save face for the Raiders, but hear me out. This might be crazy, but I don't see how Jamarcus is still labeled the biggest bust of all time. If you look at that draft, as many great players went after him, none of them were QBs. The Raiders had the number 1 pick. He was the most talented quarterback in the draft. He was a disaster. I get that. But since that, we've seen Sam Bradford, the trade to get RG3, Mariota, the Winston draft, and the trade up to get Trubisky with Watson and Mahomes sitting there. How is this not debatable now? Some of these teams gave up way more to get the same result. A QB reset a couple years down the road. Call me crazy, but I think Russell is not the biggest draft bust, even though he was terrible. Love the pod. Wish I heard your takes back then for that draft. LOL. This is not a crazy take, John. He's right.
I think it is.
I don't think it's crazy because when you look back at that draft, yes, the players that went after Joe Thomas, Calvin Johnson, Adrian Peterson, Patrick Willis, Darrelle Revis. But he's saying if you needed a quarterback and the Raiders needed a quarterback, you were just going to have to take a quarterback. And all the other quarterbacks turned out to be bad. Whereas Trubisky, not as big a bust as Jamarcus, but you traded up to take Trubisky over Mahomes and over Deshaun Watson. Do you know who is the all-time leading touchdown thrower? Let me pull this up. I'm pulling up the 2007 NFL Draft. Which QB from that class threw the most career touchdowns?
Well, maybe J.P. Lossman. I don't know. I don't even know.
That's a really good guess.
Was he in the draft?
So here, let me tell you the leading touchdown throwers from that draft. Jamarcus threw 18 touchdowns. Kevin Cobb threw 28 career touchdowns, followed by Trent Edwards, who threw 26, Drew Stanton, who threw 20, Tyler Thigpen, who threw 21, then Jamarcus, then Brady Quinn, who threw 12, then Troy Smith, who threw 8, and then John Beck, who threw 3.
Okay, it was a terrible quarterback draft. Here's where we need to separate. The Raiders, like everyone misses on and bust picks. So to me, you separate the Raiders, who are no different than any of the other teams that he listed, to the individual player. Jamarcus Russell did not get to his 4th year. So when he brings up Mariota's going to have a 9-10 year career. Jameis Winston's a starting quarterback this year. Who else did he bring up? Sam Bradford played in the league for like 9 years.
Made $12
10
million
years.
Per minute, I think.
Yeah, so it's like those guys, part of Jamarcus's bust, he was out of the league after year 3 and never came back. I think he is, him or he's on the short list, right? Him, Leaf, you go through the list. I mean,
you're right. As a player, for sure. But like the Raiders and the Bears and the Titans all ended up in the same place.
But when we talk about Jamarcus Russell, I think overall we talk about him, the individual, more than the team.
How about Greg Papa's great Jamarcus? Was it Greg Papa's Jamarcus story? The blank DVD?
I think that was
just a legendary Jamarcus. That they gave him a blank DVD to watch.
I thought it was players on the team eventually started talking about it, or maybe Lane once told it. I forget. Yeah,
that they gave Jamarcus a DVD, right?
Well, Jim Mora had the same story. Jim Mora had the same story about Michael Vick,
and he claimed to have watched it, but then like you couldn't have watched it. There was nothing on it.
Yeah.
All right, next mailbag question. This from JT Tots 24. Love the show. Are the Raiders really content heading into the 2021 draft with this roster? I know they'll fill some holes in the draft, but it just feels like they didn't get any better. The team is in desperate need of big change. Why are Gruden and Mayock so hesitant to trade their picks? Not like they hit on them anyway. They need proven players, and they need them now. I'll hang up and listen. J. Tots. They added Gus Bradley. I mean, that might be an upgrade.
Why? Who are they going to trade for? Like we've been saying for probably a year, if there was a Jalen Ramsey, Khalil Mack, Jamal Adams out there, I think the Raiders would be the number one, kind of mark for that team to come after their picks. That guy's, there isn't an individual that refuses to show up to OTAs or training camp that wants to get traded that plays defense. You agree there? If there was like an elite defender that wanted out, they would be the squad.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. They need some cap space though, but yeah. I mean, they got Yannick. They upgraded maybe at coordinator.
They upgraded a coordinator. He's better.
Okay.
Offense could be worse. Be a problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. At that offensive line right now is on the right side, right? It's Nick Martin, Denzel Good, Brandon Parker.
Was it 5 or 8? I forget the exact number, but I thought it was 7 or 8. Aguilar, I mean, they just going to need people that are unproven to fill his spot.
Well, that'd be one thing, right? It's like, okay, Ruggs has to be better this year. Can you upgrade Ruggs over Ruggs from last year?
You see Derek Instagramming yesterday? He was out throwing in like their the park by their house, it looked like.
Good. I mean, I still believe in Henry Ruggs, but it's up to them to.
Well, they did not have a connection last year, right? It was weird.
Yeah. Q9er. His name is QJ. Question for the cast. What if Kyle and company are playing everyone? The speculation of picking Mac Jones really makes no sense. What if they are drafting Kyle Pitts? Somebody, Eric Burkhart, is that the agent's name today? Tweeted about that.
Yeah.
He says, what if they're drafting Pitts? Listen to the presser. Kyle complimented Josh Rosen without saying his name. I mean, he's on the team. They flew in Flacco a week before the trade. Flacco was there to be a backup and boost the QB room. Why would they attempt to sign Flacco and allegedly Minshew and Teddy B with Rosen, Jimmy, Garoppolo, and Josh Johnson already there if they were moving up to draft a QB? Doesn't make any sense unless they had a hot taker for JG, Garoppolo, which is currently not the case. I say draft Pitts. The O-line is better than last year's with the addition of Mack and Trent Williams. He was on the team last year. Sorry for the long analysis, but Pitts would make the offense unstoppable. Your thoughts on Pitts as the potential pick? Best sports pod in the biz, in my opinion. Can we address, by the way, everyone, because this happens, QJ is not the only one, who starts listing the 7 guys on the Niners depth chart as evidence of anything? I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, this isn't like your backup unit on a basketball team. If you have 7 quarterbacks,
we get 5 minutes out of Rosen.
You know, it's like Mahomes and who? Russell Wilson and who? Brady and who? Brady's backup's Blaine Gabbert. It's like you just need to get that guy. That would be the craziest moment in draft history. Would you agree?
You know what's
If the
funny?
Kyle Pitts
Yes,
wasn't-
but I think Niners Twitter would like it more than like if it was like, oh, Pitts, even though that's crazier than Mac Jones. People
they would like
that
it more. I agree.
Which is evidence of where the headspace.
Someone was tweeting at me today claiming he thought Mac Jones had comparisons. He said he watched every snap of every quarterback, the top 3 or 4.
Yep.
He thought Mac Jones was Joe Montana. He thought we were crazy.
I did get those tweets as well. I got to go back to find that guy's name. But
yeah, it was like a thread.
Yeah, it's easier for us to get your name if it's in an iTunes comment. But
yeah,
I don't know, John. A little heel clicky from what I saw of JT O'Sullivan's Mac Jones breakdown. All right, next up, Jose Luis Perez Jr. starting at shortstop. Love the show. Hands down the best podcast. My question is, with all the attention on the draft on offense, do you think the Niners did enough on defense in free agency? How big of a loss is Robert Saleh? Do you think Bosa has a better season than his rookie year? Keep up the great work. Beer mug emoji, golf swing emoji. Jose Luis Perez Jr.
Jose Maria Jr. Olazabal.
See, I think Jose Luis Perez Jr. would be wearing like number 72 for the Chicago White Sox. He'd be like one of the 4 guys mashing home runs wearing a number in the 70s.
You see how badass that team is?
That's sweet. They got 3 guys with numbers over 70s. I said that, I would shit my pants if that squad rolled up on me.
Well, Guy, they all hit. If they were playing for the Giants, they would all be able to hit the Coca-Cola bottle. Like they don't hit bombs. They hit fucking moonshots. What was the question again?
The question is, what do you think?
Oh,
the Niners
defense.
do enough on defense? How about Robert Saleh's loss? Could Bosa have a better season than his rookie year?
We put up a video yesterday for YouTube only about Bosa running with the sled. You see his video today?
I did.
He went shorts, no shirt, sunglasses.
I'm glad you noticed that.
It was basically like, I'm gonna train, but if there's a beach or a happy hour, I can just go right there. It's like I'm ready for ball. I'm ready to get back to rookie of the year status, but I'm also, there's a pool party, and I just go right. I'm already kind of sweaty. I just jump right in the water.
He really should be working out in like Quicksilver board shorts.
I know it was a solid look. It does look like Nick Bosa doesn't have much body fat on him and was moving around pretty well.
I don't think it's crazy. 9 sacks as a rookie. I mean, I don't. Now look, the defense up front, like more is going to be required of him the longer he plays. But what if Javon Kinlaw does take another step forward this year? I don't think it's crazy that Nick Bosa can have a better year this year.
I think he's fully healthy. If he never would have got hurt last year, I think this year we would have been expecting like 15, 18 sacks. I mean, to be one of the best players in the league. I think that's kind of the expectation. To me, the biggest question mark, if Nick Bosa's healthy, he's going to play well. My question is, can Kinlaw become like, damn, Javon Kinlaw? Not just like once every other game, like, damn. Can it be just every game you just become Buckner? Part of Buckner early on was he wasn't that sexy or flashy. He was just solid.
Yeah.
And I think Kinlaw was a little like this. The pictures fucking looks like a different species of. The guy's huge. He's massive.
I know.
Like DeForest was tall and long. DeForest didn't look that thick. This guy is huge.
His mass.
He kind of looks like. You remember Trent Williams the first time he just came to like sat down to the presser with a cutoff shirt, and you're like, is this guy an NFL player or he's on the league above the NFL? That's kind of what Kinlaw's body type looks like.
Yeah. The league above
It shows
the
you if Kinlaw was really good, like was just a dominant, consistent player, he probably goes in like the top 6 or 7 picks, right? With that 6'6", 280 or whatever he's at, 300. I don't even know what he weighs. Just all muscle.
So, I mean, while we're talking about player development, we've got him listed at 319, but that seems small.
Who, Kinlaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he's 350. Maybe he's 3. I don't know.
While we're talking about player development, look, Emmanuel Mosley played his first 16-game season last year. I mean, obviously he played on the team the year prior, but year 3 for a player. Maybe he takes
started in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, maybe he takes a step this year though. Right?
I mean, it's just I think he can just be a solid player when you can't run. My comp for him would be a little Malcolm Butler-esque. Like your physical limitations, like he's not a burner, so he's not really going to be like some matchup lockdown corner, but he's a good player. He's a physical player. He's just a good starter. To me, you're fine with him. You just need to keep him on the field.
And Jason Verrett for that matter.
That's the risky one.
All right, Reverend Allaby. Matt Miller, NFL draft scout, recently said this. Many Niner fans may look at the information being shared by myself, Schefter, and others and say, this front office never leaks. And while that may be true, it's very important to read the above paragraph. They have nothing left to hide this year. And while it's all conjecture at this point, one former 49ers employee I spoke to said this week he believes there's a 95% chance Jones is the pick. He's been pretty accurate on Niners. Now this is Reverend Allaby saying about Matt Miller. He's been pretty accurate on Niners first-round picks in the past, and I'm worried he's going to be right again. Can one of y'all back this up? You keep saying this, but passing on field seems insane. Who's the former Niners employee, you think?
Balky. I don't not believe that they are being told this by these people. Like I don't think people are making this up. Like we've never said that this is just getting made up. I think they are being told that. When Schefter says it, he believes it. I just don't necessarily believe it. But I am not.
I do not believe it.
I'm not going to be shocked if Mac Jones is the pick. Maybe they knew it was going to be kind of, I'm sure, viewed as insane, and they've just started getting the message out early. Let everyone know. Yeah, get ready.
Prepare people for, Mom, when I come home, I am going to have a face tattoo. Just be ready. Get your mom mentally prepared, for your face tattoo.
I do, if I'm going to defend Mac, I've been saying this over and over. I do think people are acting like he's a scrub. I mean, he would go in the top 15 picks.
Yeah, and
I think the constant conversation will always be, did you overvalue his value? Like, did you make a purchase for $5 million when really, if you just would have taken a deep breath, you could have paid $1 million? It feels an extreme price to pay for a guy that.
But again, they might have thought all 5 quarterbacks would be drafted by 8, and the Panthers would take him. And yeah, I mean, the other thing I would say, A, what you said, and B, I don't, just like I didn't want to talk about Mac Jones from the standpoint of he's the safe quarterback. Like, I think that's irresponsible to talk about any college quarterback like it's a lock unless they're Luck or Peyton or the way we talk about Trevor Lawrence, fine. But to call anybody safe, I don't love that because I don't think anybody's safe. On the flip side, if you told me he plays for Kyle Shanahan, Justin Fields plays for whoever, the Lions, Trey Lance goes somewhere else, and in 5 years, Mac Jones has thrown more touchdowns than any of them, I'd believe that too. Like the idea that Fields is a lock or Trey Lance, like none of this stuff is safe. So Kyle Shanahan's argument could be on draft night. I think this guy's going to be the best quarterback of the group. And you would say, yeah, but is he better than Jimmy Garoppolo? And that would be a legitimate comeback, right? But that's not a crazy thing to say. I think the guy from Alabama is going to end up better than these other two in the end. And I do think one thing that whoever Kyle drafts will have, I don't know if it's an advantage, it depends where the other guys get drafted, is that they do have Kyle Shanahan.
And they'll never lose, and he'll never lose his OC.
Because he's the OC.
Yeah.
Next up, glass box of emotion. Rams fan here. Question for you regarding the Niners' Rams' respective trades to fix their quarterback issue. If you offered each team the other's trade, would they switch? I know it's so basically if the Rams could give would the Lions want what the deal the Rams did, and would the Rams want the deal the Niners did? I know it's not a perfect comp because the Rams don't have a 1 this year, and Jimmy's contract situation is way easier to get out of than Goff's. But if you told the Niners they could keep 12, send 2 1s, a third, and Jimmy to the Lions for Stafford, or if you told the Rams they'd have to throw in another first, they'd have to keep Goff's awful contract for now, but they'd get the 3rd pick, which team switches the deal first?
Okay, I
This
follow.
is a really good question. Look, I don't think the Niners would switch the deal because I do think the Niners probably had a chance to do some version of that, right?
I think it's
unless Jimmy refused to waive his no trade and they couldn't send him to Detroit. What if that's what blew that deal up?
Possible. Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I do think there was probably more at play than just it wasn't as black and white as that. But if we just look at this as a vacuum, I would say the Niners, if they had to, could keep Jimmy. Sean McVay couldn't look at Jared Goff anymore. Like that was just a relationship that sometimes you hear the stories about divorce. It's like, we lived together for another 6 months. I've heard stories of people dating while they've been this. It just gets complicated.
Yep.
To me, Sean McVay was like, I don't have anywhere to go. I'll just figure it out. Like I got to move out, right? I'm fucking done. I cannot look at him anymore. Which is weird because Goff seems like a normal, nice guy, and Jimmy actually seems like more of the guy that would drive you crazy because he's never available. But the emotions do feel stronger down there than up here. Is that fair assessment?
Absolutely. Yes.
It doesn't.
The Rams,
if you just had to pick the two, if I was McVay, I get where the struggles football wise. But Jared, he's available. He shows up early. Like Jimmy just disappears. He's up there taking notes. Like that would drive me nuts.
Feels like Rams McVay felt about Goff the way Rams 49ers fans feel about Jimmy.
Yes.
Next up, Jones. SSV. Can't get enough. You guys are the best. Let's say for a second the Niners draft Mac Jones. Atlanta might or might not go QB. They're drafting at 4. Picks 5, 6, and 7 won't draft a quarterback barring trade. Okay, 5 is Cincinnati, 6 is Miami, 7 is Detroit. So Carolina doesn't value Fields or Lance high enough to be a top 8 pick? Question mark. After going after Watson, who was mobile, I don't buy it. Please tell me it's Jones the teams don't value as much as the media right now. So I think the question is like, why, if Carolina thought the Niners were taking Mac Jones, they could just stay put and get either Fields or Lance at 8. And so that maybe Carolina thinks the Niners are taking one of those guys. That's where Jim Nagy said the Niners and Panthers both like Mac Jones. So that would explain this scenario. But what do you think? Do you think a quarterback goes 4, 5, 6, or 7? I do.
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
Not with the teams in play. I don't think Atlanta drafts one. 5, I think Cincinnati, it would be prudent for them to probably take whoever they believe is the top tackle.
Yep.
You could also probably justify, if you think Jamar Chase is a Hall of Fame talent, get him back with Burrow. I think you can do either. Once upon a time, I think they took A.J. Green. A.J. might have gone 6. Julio went 5. It might be flip-flopped 4. I can't remember the exact number, but A.J. Green worked out pretty well for him. So
I'd go lineman if I were them, but
yeah, I would too. And then I think the Dolphins are clearly probably going to go either lineman or Pitts, and then the Dolphins, or excuse me, the Lions, I guess they would be eligible to do anything. It wouldn't shock me if you told me like the Washington football team traded up to the Lions, or some, Belichick. That the 7 seems like a sweet spot if one of those guys is dropping. It would be pretty nuts on draft night if we're sitting here watching it. Mac Jones goes 3, and those 2 guys are tumbling.
I know. And it's past the Panthers.
Past the Panthers.
Then we maybe would know that the Panthers like.
Is it fair to say the Panthers just there's so much unknown, they don't want to mortgage too many picks, that they just thought, well, we can get it pretty cheap with Sam Darnold, who we kind of like. We don't love any of these guys. And just kind of pull the trigger.
Ideally, you would not do that deal until draft night.
Do you ever get text messages from fake Amazons saying that you've been unlocked for billing?
Oh yeah, I get ones that say congratulations, Christopher.
Is that scams? Are we getting scammed?
Yeah, scan all day, every day.
So when they say for your billing, just give us your account, that's fake?
That's got to be fake. Yep. Absolutely. I get it
good
all day, every day. All right, next up, Davo.
Whoa.
Huh? Oh yeah,
it's a long
paragraph. Davo Dava Cinco. Non-football mailbag topic. Lifelong Kings fan here. I've always hoped ESPN would make a 30 for 30 about the 2000-2003 era of Kings basketball. One of the most likable, entertaining, talented rosters in recent memory. Bibby, Peja, Vlade, Weber, Doug Christie, Scott Pollard, Bobby Jackson, Hito Turkoglu, Gerald Wallace, Jay Will at the beginning of that, remember, before the Bibby trade. Plus, you had the Clown Show Maloofs running the operation, a Hall of Fame coach in Adelman. Plus, the NBA rigged the playoffs, put Kobe in the championship in 2002. The ref even went on the record, said he fixed the game, literally sent our franchise spiraling into a dark pit of despair, 9th seed draft purgatory for the last 2 decades. With Sacramento being one of the least sought-out destinations for free agents and our ability to blow draft picks, I don't see any end in sight. Sadly, I think the Kings were overtaken by the Browns as the worst franchise in sports because it seemed the Browns have finally started to turn the corner. So, now the Kings are bad. I think it'd make a fantastic episode. Takes? Abso-freaking-lutely.
I think they lost to the Pistons last night.
Did they? I think they were in the playoff race. My dad watches all the Kings games.
Well, no, they were, and then I think they lost 5 straight games. Yeah, I mean, because whenever it matters, they suck. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like the franchise is snake bitten. I don't
How
even.
great were those teams? Can we just
They
reminisce?
were.
Should there be a 30 for 30 about one of the greatest teams ever to not win a championship?
I would watch. Would it have a huge market? I don't know. But
I mean, yeah, like
it was cool. I mean,
it was
I
incredible.
got to go to several of those games. It was sweet. We got to know a couple of them. It was cool.
Bobby and Doug, great guys.
They were that part of it was like they just had high level people doing high level shit, right? They had an elite coach, who was their GM, Jeff Petrie. He was big time.
Nailing international picks.
Yeah, they were just nailing trades. They got rid of Mitch Richmond, who was old, who's actually now on the pre and post game for Chris Webber, who definitely, listen, I'm not the biggest Webber guy, but he changed the franchise, trade for Vlade. It was an incredible group. But their team now, it's just like they never have any identity. It's just they keep doing the same thing over and over. I would say Purgatory 9th seed. Actually, it's more like Purgatory like 14th seed. Pretty typically. They would die to be the 9th seed because the 9th seed now gets you in the playoffs. You know, they're not the 9th seed, or they'd be good.
Mm-hmm. Anthony,
Arco Arena was sweet though.
Yeah, I mean, but after a certain point, the best thing we saw there was Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
Anthony Fanucci in Discovery Bay, a full name on the internet. Love when I see a full name on the internet. What were those programs you were talking about on the latest podcast for F1? Thank you for the entertainment. It's on Netflix, right? The F1 show?
Netflix, yep.
What's it called?
Formula
Need
One.
for
I think
Speed?
it's just called. I think you just type in like Formula One, it'll show up.
Yeah, great show. Next,
Isn't it crazy? One thing that's crazy, I was watching an episode the other day, is I'm sure you get more and more comfortable with just the speeds and the turns and stuff. I don't know how you ever get comfortable being that close, and it's like you never know. And you're going, even on turns when you're going 70, 80 miles an hour, you're inches away. That to me is
touching.
That to me is the craziest part, how there aren't more. At least in NASCAR, you are surrounded by the steel, right? I mean, you are pretty exposed, and they definitely going faster there. How did more people not die?
Same thing, I think, with all those air show planes. They're like,
you're saying doing the flips and stuff?
Yeah, but when they're in formation?
Do you find it a little bizarre? Like, you probably have to be really deep into Formula One to their excitement when they like get a top 6.
I did.
Yeah!
That was one thing I didn't get. I learned.
Yeah, we did it.
Because
then you look up like the rankings is like Lewis. You never Lewis doesn't lose. Lewis would be like if Tiger Woods had won every golf tournament. It gets to the point where it's like, I guess you do have to celebrate 4th because the only one motherfucker wins.
Do you get paid for 5th place in F1 like you do in golf? Because that would make sense then.
Maybe. The one thing they don't do on that show is really talk about the payment structure, do they? On the they never mentioned that.
I'm only on season 1. I know you've watched a lot more of it than me.
I mean, again, it's one of those shows I just kind of, it's like baseball, just on in the background.
ZT West says, hey, have y'all watched QB1 on Netflix with Justin Fields, Spencer Rattler, etc.? Justin Fields was a beast, but didn't give up the hard work, dedication, grind needed to succeed. He was a freak athlete and bald. Does that give you worry about him? Also, is it a red flag that he transfers from Georgia, quitting on the team, couldn't beat Jake, who looked like Guy? Jake would be very offended by that. He said, I know Jake Fromm owned the place, but I would also red flag his CFP performance. A lot of outward showing of pain. Also, Rattler was a big red flag on that show, too. A lot of problems. Which percentage of QB's characters play into the draft? Drafting a high level character guy like Mac, who led Bama, team of studs, makes sense due to his hard work character.
Did he say that Justin Fields is balding?
Balling out.
Oh, balling.
Yeah. I do think this is, you say this every year because this comes up with Mac Jones because he has a DUI, is like the difference between, I hear coaches say this all the time, right? It's like, this is football character. We talked about this a lot when John Lynch took over. Like, we want guys with character. It's like they want guys who are not going to embarrass the organization. That's been a problem in the past. But really what they value is football character, right? Like, there's a difference. Now, you can have both or you can have neither. But I think I'm obligated to bring that up since the guy called Mac Jones a high character guy. But
like getting a DUI at 19, 3 years later, what does that mean? Like you had a moment?
You don't know. That's the thing, right? It's a piece of a puzzle. You don't know if it means anything or not.
Like, remember, Dak got the DUI, I think, like the week before the draft. Like, to me, there's a big difference of just having that moment. And you know what turns out? That was irrelevant. When I was in high school, I easily could have got a DUI. Long story short, it happened in front of my house. It could have been a disaster. It's just, to me, a DUI is not a defining moment in someone's life. Now, do you have 3 DUIs? Do you have an alcohol problem? And that's what these teams look into. The Justin Fields thing, like, one thing I'm not making a big deal. Everyone freaks out on like social media is like, I haven't heard one coach or GM go on record and say these things.
Well, no one ever does, John. And not.
But do you know what's really become now is so many former backup quarterbacks are on TV now. And I was thinking about this yesterday. Think who they talk to. Do you know who they are not friends with? You know, I became great friends with our third in command, the college director. We talked every day. We just talked players. No, they become friends with the assistant coaches. You know who us in personnel don't really give a fuck who their opinion during the process? Assistant coaches. And not that some aren't good at evaluating, but they have the least amount of juice come the draft time. Plus, they just get secondhand information. So it's like Orlovsky just talks to assistant coaches, which is fine, which helps him when he's talking scheme and all that bullshit. We're talking players. We're talking people that go into schools. That assistant coaches never do that. Now they do during the pro day when everything's one big jerk-off sesh. We love this guy. We love this guy. Or they, it's just, I don't really care. That information is all coming from one source. They never, ever go, I become really good friends with the SEC scout when I was the backup quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. He's now a GM. That never happens. That's not the guy feeding them the information. And on Spencer Rattler, yes, he was a little douchey on the show. I think we got to be careful. And one thing I've really tried to change over the years is like the way you evaluate a kid at 16, 17 years old. If you're making big judgments, on a 17-year-old, because we know people at Oklahoma, like he's really mature. They like him. Not everyone is like Peyton Manning at 17. He was douchey. I mean, I turned it off. It was awful.
As it relates to who backup quarterbacks talk to, though, like secondhand information from anonymous sources can be correct. When draft rumors start, they usually don't come on the record from anybody. So an assistant coach might know what they've talked about in draft meetings about a player. Now, does that mean
100%? My point, though, is it's all coming from assistant coaches when those guys talk. It's just a fact. It's just the reality.
But the assistant coach is getting it. Like, did the assistant coach make it up?
Well, but they're getting it from obviously they talk to other coaches and after the fact because they're not worried about it during the season. And the information you get sometimes January, February, and March sounds a lot different than when the guys are beating the bushes. And again, I'm biased, but are in the school and have
I just don't understand why an assistant coach might not have good. You might have good information.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times they don't.
Well, I mean, they're talking to people in their own building.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
I talk to a lot of scouts.
I don't know. You've been in the building. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, the idea that an assistant coach is making up information.
Not making it up. They come with angles. It's hard to explain. I mean, they just say things that make you shake your head. It's like, what are you talking about?
Well, my ultimate point is I don't
because
part
of their deal is the evaluation, right? So they come in late to the process. They have these bold takes. Most of them are terrible evaluators. Most coaches are not great evaluators. It's why coaches that are good evaluators really stand out. And yeah, I don't put much weight into what they say. And that's where a lot of guys on television, the players, because the people they're surrounded by are those people. That's where I think the information is coming from. You're right. I mean, it's not always going to be wrong.
My ultimate point is this is always the time of year we hate anonymous sources, and the only people that say negative things are anonymous sources. That's my point.
Yeah. You never hear the GM, we think he's got a drug problem, and on the field he's kind of slow, and I think he's a pussy, he can't catch either, right? That in the history of football, at least probably since like 82, no one talks like that anymore, even though deep down inside that room, that's exactly what they say.
Yeah,
right?
and
then
exactly.
and then it gets filtered through the anonymous source.
Well, there's no point in going on the record. The other thing is, like, it happens all the time. Jose Canseco.
Most of the assistant coaches are not in the room for the draft meeting. So
okay. Jose Canseco, he's a scumbag. Why should we believe him? It's like, yeah, the people who are like these people tend to have nothing to lose, ostracized, right? When someone like in a person like Jose's position, when he's blowing the whistle on Mark McGwire and all of baseball, guess who turned out to be right most of the time? Jose Canseco.
I did not.
All right. Marshall 907 says, longtime listener from Alaska. Thanks for your continuing cover of the Raiders. I've always appreciated your Raider takes. Question for the pod.
Me too.
Do the Raiders have a decent free agency period so far? Twitter Mafia has been destroying them for dismantling their offensive line. But with a strong offensive line class in the draft and a weak D-line class, it made sense to me that they would load up on the D-line now and draft O-line to get better at run blocking. Doesn't feel like they're about to draft offensive line, but maybe they are. Drafting at 17 and 48 right now.
Yeah,
and they have 80 and 81 in the third round.
To me, they need defense. I mean, and they need defense bad. But their head coach, the offensive play caller, and the offensive coordinator. So you could convince me that they probably every position beside running back and probably quarterback is on the table, right? Given that they kept Mariota at what, 18 or 19, 17?
17.
He's making progress. He's fallen, he's getting lower down the draft. It started higher and it's worked its way back. So that's good. A little slower than most people had hoped, but maybe next year it's 22.
I think they'd be prime candidate for a cornerback named Junior, like Patrick Surtain or Asante Samuel Jr., although he's not big. But they used a second rounder on Trayvon Mullen a couple years ago. They just
drafted a first round corner. They drafted what's his name, the safety. They've drafted a lot of DBs guys.
So it doesn't feel like that's why I like Jalen Phillips. I think maybe could be, a high upside guy that hasn't been kind of what their MO is when they draft pass rushers or D linemen.
Why not just take a middle linebacker, a guy that can just tackle some people?
Yeah.
I mean, has any team had slower middle linebackers the last decade than the Raiders?
It's so weird because they signed speed. We thought. B Zink. My Minshew question last time aged out, so let me update. He says, if the Niners nail the third pick, hopefully Fields or the Jets give them info that they're not taking Wilson, what would you like to see with their second-round pick? This is a great question. No one's asked this. Additionally, if Jimmy really does stay on the team next year, would you do anything with his contract to gain additional savings? Enjoy the Masters. All right, the second-round pick. That's pick 43 right now. Nobody's asked what they should do.
It's hard to even think about that. It really is. I have not spent 1 minute because until I know 3, I can't even wrap my head around anything else. Honestly, guy, I swear to God, like kind of irrelevant until I know who's at 3. Like you do whatever you want. I don't know. If somehow Najee Harris were to fall, I'd have no problem doing that. I guess you could do whatever you want. Just tell me who the quarterback is. Like their problem has not been other positions. Like I'm not saying they're a perfect team, but who's their quarterback? Because here's the other thing, guy. Was Jimmy gone after they trade this guy that night? And do they have 2 twos and they're able to do a couple things? I don't know. Do you agree though? It's really hard to even have a conversation with a straight face about the second round pick until you know the third overall pick.
Yeah. I mean, to a degree, except, I kind of feel like I know they're drafting I know they're drafting a quarterback, so we can start.
But we know that, but the question of who it is such a big question mark.
There's no doubt.
Is that wouldn't you say that is that the biggest story in football right now?
Yeah. Yes. The Niners are the biggest story in football right now.
I agree.
I
just looked up Justin Thomas is in second place.
In the DraftKings game? Or in the real
Masters? No, in the Masters.
NI24 says, one thing to keep in mind is the Niners haven't drafted a player out of Alabama since Ruben. Do you think John and Kyle trust anything from Saban anymore? Here's hoping they don't. Yes, I think they do.
I don't think Saban was like singing Ruben's praises, I don't think the information coming out of Alabama was, I think Luke Kuechly meets Peyton Manning, meets the poster child of your team. Like that was not the case. They knew what they were getting, and it blew up in their face.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, Alabama guys get drafted before two Alabama guys got drafted before the Niners drafted last year. So they never got their shot at, like, Ruggs, right?
Yeah.
I guess they picked Bosa over Quinnen Williams. Minka went before they drafted the year prior. So did Deron Payne. So did Rashawn Evans.
I'd be good with taking Najee.
So did. Wait, where did they draft that year? They trade out?
What year?
Oh, no, that was the McGlinchey year. Never mind. Deron Payne went after McGlinchey. Yeah, Najee.
Would you take Najee, pick 43?
Hell yeah. You kidding
He
me?
won't be there probably, though.
Danny Pinto. Full name on the internet. Look at this guy. Love the pod.
Haberman used to drive a Pinto.
Mailbag question. Widely regarded the biggest piece of shit car, a Pinto?
I'd say, yeah, for a long period of time. Yeah.
That has nothing to do with Danny, though. Mailbag question. In moving to 3, Kyle Shanahan's banking on himself getting the right guy. Scenario. Let's say he picks the wrong guy. Would Mac Jones be the more fireable decision based on drafting a plug-and-play guy versus the potential of Fields, Lance, and even Wilson, but it just didn't work out? I mean, yeah, if you said he's going to fail with the quarterbacks, which would be the worst one to fail with? That would be the worst one to fail with, right?
By a mile. Especially Trey Lance, whatever, but you would miss the evaluation. If you passed on Justin Fields and he went on to be a Pro Bowler and Mac is average as the day is long, I mean, it's a career-altering decision for Kyle. Now, he's so young, it's not like he'd get fired. I mean, he probably would get fired in the sense I think the fan base would be so mad, guy. That's you and I you think he might be able to survive it. I think the animosity would grow at such a exponential rate, it would be out of control, the anger.
Yeah, I just think there's always context. Like, what is it? What does failure look like? You shouldn't have traded up for him, or does failure look like you shouldn't have drafted him at all?
Yeah, I'm saying he's a bust.
Yeah, then it's really.
If you're getting to the playoffs with him, but he's like Jared Goff, then yeah, he'd be fine. But is it like you're screwed because he's not good? That's I don't argue with that scenario.
The Jew Lion. I can say that. Hey guys, been a big
I'm
fan
part
for
of
a while. Yeah, that's right. You're in the club. Honorary Jew. Y'all get all the credit or blame for me finding the motivation to get my own pod off the ground. Congratulations, Jew Lion.
Not a boy.
It's a podcast about the greatest Jewish athletes of all time. Was lucky enough to have John on. Would love to do a full ham squad one day. One thing I love about your pod, you don't manufacture arguments like Skip and Shannon. But what would you say is your most heated debate on air? Was it baseball's unwritten rules? That's a good question. Was that a radio argument or was that a podcast argument? I can't remember.
Great question. I mean, things that I'll never budge on would be some of the baseball stuff. I heard a couple people mention how much they hate this late inning rule. I can't like it enough.
I'm coming around on it, actually.
No one wants to watch a 17-inning game, including purists, because they don't. So, yeah, I'm glad you're coming around. Some of the officiating stuff probably over the year. I just don't think we don't waste time on too many topics that at the end of the day, here's the thing, like with the baseball unwritten rules, not that many people truly care. Like if you notice, like baseball is not a great podcast, internet, YouTube fucking product. Or I would talk about it. I watch it. I know you watch a ton. Yeah, I don't know. Tend to agree. Smart people.
That's a great question.
I think the officiating thing, like
maybe basketball officiating, basketball or football.
I'd say just in general, one of my takes is just how it's just not acceptable.
Oh, right.
Once the gambling thing becomes a bigger deal.
I say, well, what's acceptable? What does that even mean? We're accepting.
Well, I believe Well, my point is, I always believe you should just lose your job. Like players lose their job, coaches lose their job, officiating, they never lose their job.
Yeah, but
and then they get promoted, and then I see like Steratore. It's like, how many calls that guy blown? And it's like, oh, he's making $800,000 working for CBS. Yeah,
but the worst
jerked
guys
off
lose,
by Nance.
But not every player loses their job. You do need players. Like once you throw an interception, make a mistake in a big moment, you don't get fired, depending on who.
Yeah, I'm not saying you don't get a chance to work your way back in, or someone else takes a chance on you. I just feel a lot of officials in basketball, football, baseball too. What's the guy's name that everyone hates that always sues baseball for like racism? Who's by far the worst, umpire ever? Angel Hernandez. Yeah, it's like that guy you can't expect gambling to become legal. And the problem too is baseball and basketball, they're not really a gambleable. We're not going to gamble on those sports. Basketball guy, this is the worst NBA season ever. Every time I look up, it's blowouts. Like, who's gambling on this stuff? In baseball, it's just too much inventory. You can't.
That's where gambling helps, is you need somebody in a 20-point game to be able to have something to root for at the end.
Yeah.
To cover 17 or something. This from Bruh Moment 02. It was reported the Niners had discussion with the Bengals at 5 and the Falcons at 4 before the Dolphins pulled the trigger. So the Niners just wanted to be in the top 5, which means they think all QBs are worthy of their pick. Otherwise, they wouldn't have moved into the top 5. They could have been left with the last QB on the board. Agree? And if so, doesn't it scare you that they think all 5 QBs are equal? Disagree. I don't think they think all 5 QBs are equal. If they thought that, then they would have given up less to not go as far.
But those were not. But I think what he's saying is like 4 and 5, they couldn't make those trades.
Oh, I see.
Like they tried, and then they ultimately went to 3. I heard someone bring this up. Maybe Kevin Clark said this within the last couple of weeks. But it makes sense. Like, is there a chance that Miami didn't necessarily want to leave 3, but the deal was just too good? Because then ultimately they immediately got back up to 6. Like, they didn't just want to take off, but like, you're going to give us 3 first-rounders, 12, 2 other ones, and a third-rounder just to come up, and we know we can get back to 6. It was just one of those deals. Like, I've heard stories about people come up to their people's house, like especially if you have like a beach house or whatever, and just knock on your door like, hey, we'll buy this house off you. Mm-hmm. Most of the first reaction of any human being is going to be no. But anyone that's, just how much? And what if they just offer, $1 million home? They're like, we'll pay you $3.5 million. You're like, honey, we'll just buy the house down the road and we'll have an extra $2.5 million in our back pocket, right? Could that be a little bit what Miami did? Where the Bengals, sure, it's like, we need to get a sweet player. The Falcons, we don't know yet. The Eagles, the Eagles were open. I think they thought that 6, is too risky. I don't know.
I don't think they like all 5 QBs equally, though. Do you think that?
No. I think that they have their guy. I think they've known since they made the trade which guy out of the 3. Now, if Zach Wilson were to fall, and maybe they knew the whole time that he's an option too, then yeah. But I think they have, between Trey Lance, Mac Jones, and Justin Fields, they knew their guy the moment the trade was happened. Out of that group, the guy they would draft right that day. Now, is it possible it changes over a month and a half? Possible. Right there. Is this going to be the norm? There's like 7 pro days going on. A player. Both those guys are doing another pro day that Kyle's going to be at. So who knows? Right?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance that Fields or Lance's second pro day? He's human. You couldn't impact him a little bit? Maybe just have a good dinner or sit down and talk? I don't know.
So that was the biggest mailbag we've done, 17 mailbag questions to that one. To reward everybody who's been watching live on YouTube. I'm not ignoring your question. Somebody asked something similar. So let me just throw in a few YouTube. How did I do this last time?
Hell of a question.
How did I get this? How did I get the YouTube questions in last time? Hold on a second here. Oh, here we go. I think. Yeah, there we go. All right. So let's see here. Somebody just asked. This is from Joshua. He says, I think Kyle likes Mac, but he wants to like Fields. If Kyle is the offensive guru we all think he is, he should be able to coach up Fields, in my opinion. So that's kind of what you're saying. Like, maybe does he like Mac? He thinks right now, if the draft is today, he would take Mac, but he's open-minded on Fields. Because I was thinking about that too. Like, if in his mind his heart is set on Mac, is he going to Fields' pro day just in case in 7 years Fields is a free agent and he needs a quarterback again? Like, is he just wasting his time to keep up appearances, or is he a little open-minded just to see what everything's about? Or does he does he need a road trip? He's been at home for 12 months.
I think the greatest part about this entire story, no one has any freaking clue, right? And I think the moment the pick happens, and just over time, because Kyle is a pretty open book when he talks, it's going to be just fascinating to watch the immediate aftermath, right? Once he's drafted, what Kyle says just the next couple weeks. I was watching a little bit of on our YouTube channel, just some queries come up with just different stuff and Bussin' with the Boys, Taylor Lewan's deal. And I saw that he had Arthur Smith on. So I was like, I wanted to see what Arthur sounds like with his guys. And he's got this weird kind of like low key personality, but I just was kind of forwarding through. It was a little boring. But Arthur, I skipped randomly to this one spot and they asked him like, so what's the inside intel? You could tell the players like, are we going to have OTAs this year? He's like, yeah, probably you're going to end up having some. And that to me, once they have some, that just that Kyle talking and Mac or Justin Fields. Like the great part about this story is, to me, it gets bigger after the draft a little bit in the immediate, right? For the immediate month or two.
Right. Yep.
Because the lead up and how what's like leading Albert Breer and Peter King's that Sunday after the draft, like how Kyle decided on the decision. They'll talk about their process. John will be open about it. I don't know. You don't know. Hell, everyone's freaking out because they don't know. I want to know, but it's like we got to wait. What's April 9th? We got, and I think we're going to find it all out in like increments, don't you? Like we're going to get the meat of it, but then there'll be like added stuff throughout the weeks. I'm fascinated. Maybe we can. Kyle was supposed to come on our podcast, and then Corona hit, so maybe he'll come on.
I know. We gotta.
But Bob Lang went to Philly,
Bob
and he
Lang's
was our
in Philly,
connect.
I know. Hey, by the way, everybody, hit the like button. Smash that like button. All right.
Smash that.
Couple more here from YouTube. Jackson says 49ers take blank at the 43rd pick in the second round.
McGlinchey.
McGlinchey. I'm gonna go. I was like, I'm just gonna go to DJ's big board, and I'll just take whoever is 43rd on his big board, and it's Jabril Cox, linebacker, LSU.
Who? Give me guys around him.
Well, one guy he has around him, I think, is Rashad Bateman, the receiver from Minnesota. Feels like he might go a little higher than that.
Niners don't need a receiver. To me.
How about Dickerson, the offensive lineman out of
Landon
Dickerson?
They just signed Mac. I mean, I wouldn't want my second round pick being a backup.
Kelvin
Is there like
Joseph, cornerback, Kentucky?
Yeah, doesn't Washington have a bunch of DBs? Like, can't they just take a corner?
Yeah, they can take a corner.
I'd do a corner.
Byron
Pass rush.
Elijah Molden, I think. Does DJ? Where does I don't know if DJ has him in his. He's
so
got
Washington
the 2D linemen.
They don't have a group of like Buda Baker, King, and like a group like
Elijah
that.
Molden they have, but he's a little smaller.
Was it Sidney Jones?
Actually, is he going back to school?
Was Sidney
the one the Eagles took?
Tore his Achilles at the pro day. That's not funny, but his career got derailed. Because he was going to go in like the top 20, and then he tore his Achilles, and then he went in the second round. He just passed, and then he's not good. Yeah, there's a bulky move. Problem with the bulky move, we could just call it the bulky. They tend to not work. If I was a GM and I'd be like, hey, this guy, when my scouts were like, we can get this guy in the third. I know he's got a torn ACL. I'd be like, hey, can we get our Harvard guy in here and run a study of the last 20 years of the guy that have coming into the draft with a torn knee that we then draft a round or two later that then goes on to be what he was supposed to be before the knee? It feels like that hit rate's about 3%, doesn't it?
Joe Williams?
Yeah, it's like, he just tore his ACL working out in January at a clutch performance down in L.A. It's like, we'll get him in the fourth. He should have been an early second. And then that guy you go out to his practice, whatever team he's going, he's pushing the sled, and then you never see him again.
Was Jalen Hurd hurt when they drafted him?
Yes. But in defense of his injuries, his like back was not related to remember it was a knee brace when we went out there, and he broke his back, and he's never been the same.
YouTube, Mr. Superfly. What if this draft pick doesn't even matter because Tom Brady wins the next 3 or 4 Super Bowls anyway? Did you see Brady's tweet yesterday?
NFTs?
No, it was about basically, I think Disney World tweeted something out, and Tom retweeted and was like, honestly, I only keep playing for the free trips to Disney World.
That's pretty good.
That's a good
He
tweet.
Goes a lot. Didn't he send Gronk a couple years ago, though? Maybe they went together.
I thought they went together.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Matthew says 10 on Leishman for 1,600 and 10 on Rose for 800. Long way to go. Who you got in the Masters?
You know what pisses me off, Guy, is right before Wednesday night, I had a team with Thomas and Spieth, and I changed it around. I'm looking up Thomas in second, Spieth in third.
Feels like JT, right? What a great final group that would be on Sunday. Doesn't feel like Bryson's going to be in that group.
No. Justin winning the Masters would be pretty cool. You know what's pretty cool about him is just his dad. It's like his teacher and always around. That's got to be pretty awesome for the family.
The skills that kills, says 69 asked. Did you guys hear Rappaport on Eisen's show? I don't know. I heard some of it. Basically, he said that he asked Kyle Shanahan if they're considering Mac Jones, and Kyle said, yes, we're considering him.
Yeah. Not ideal for the Mac Jones haters.
Oh, this was from earlier we were asking. Jackson says Mills was mock drafted to the Bucks at 32.
Gotcha.
Okay. Mills
have a big arm.
He does have a good arm.
Okay, he'd probably like him then.
Doug Christie was a defensive beast. He drove Kobe crazy. Doug Christie's all of them, just an incredible person.
The problem was Shaq. I mean, he was an unstoppable force against the Kings, and they threw everything at him, and it didn't matter. I respect Kobe, obviously R.I.P., but Shaq was the problem for the Kings, not Kobe. The Laker fans always get very offended, like Kobe. No, Shaq was better in the 3 championships. It's okay.
He was just a more unstoppable, unique force.
But Kobe was also like 20 and 21 at the time, right?
How do you scout? Joey says, how do you scout intangibles like intelligence, processing speed, etc.?
Just cross your fingers. I mean, there's no one knows. Like, how do you scout? Think about when you hire someone, you just base it off references. You base it off talking with the people.
LinkedIn algorithms, promo code HAM.
Yeah, there's just it's a guessing game that no humans ever figured out. I think there are probably like can't miss, like, God damn, this guy's impressive. But maybe he's got issues behind the scenes, right? In any walk of life, you never know. I don't think we'll ever be able to figure that out. Maybe AI can get inside a guy's brain.
I talked to a quarterback coach type guy a couple years ago. I remember I met him, and he told me there are some people trying to develop things that can measure how quickly a quarterback's brain processes what he's saying.
Remember the thing that Stanford had? The lights go on and you kind of look, like the thing Steph does with his hands. With the lights. Stanford
had that. Stanford also had, Trent Edwards was part of this company actually, called Striver, STRIVR. That I remember. Which Hard Knocks? Maybe it was Carson. Was Carson Palmer in a Hard Knocks? Wearing a headset.
The Bengals were in a long time ago.
No,
yeah.
So maybe it wasn't Carson. It was more recent. Somebody was wearing the headset, just practicing, calls and moving around. It was like what they do is they'll put this big, this camera behind.
Did you watch the Arizona Cardinals Amazon Prime?
Yeah, maybe it was that.
He did that. Yeah.
Okay, that's what it was. So they'll put this big camera that looks like this giant. It's got like 6 eyeballs on it, and so it stitches together this full view. And you put it behind the quarterback at practice. We've seen the Niners guys running around with it a few years ago. I don't know if they still do it, but it's like this big camera on a stick, probably 8 feet high. And then that practice video, the quarterback can rewatch practice through the headset and, go through the reps over and over again.
You know who's part of that company is Chase Thomas, who used to play at Stanford.
Okay.
I used to notice him out of Stanford or at 49ers practice
he would run around with it. That's right.
With the thing, yeah.
That's a good call.
Stanford guys usually stick together. Why wouldn't they? They're smarter than everyone else.
Jackson, different Jackson says, I heard that, I know, good call. It's just like a state stool, guys, John. I heard that a team in the league believes Fields is going too. Also, Fields has been praised by Sherman. Sherman and Saleh think alike and are buds. What do you guys think?
Are they that good of buds? Because it's not on his team. But
after the draft, maybe after the draft.
That's what Richard said. He's waiting for, which is smart at this point in time. I think that, Saleh's not in charge. It's really that simple. Listen, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I know nothing about Saleh's ability to evaluate players on offense.
And even if you did, it's not his, like you said, Joe Douglas, the GM. Daniel, the YouTube comment, the general sentiment of the interview was that Rappaport was admitting he had no idea who the pick was.
Gotcha.
Daniel, I think, in this image representing the Israeli Defense Force, by the way. IDF.
If you would have grown up over there, you would have had to be in it, right?
I went on a visit to see a bunch of family. I'm a citizen. My mom was born and raised there. We went back, and when we came into the country, this is several years ago. That would have been
awesome if they took you and made you join for a year. Toughen you up, guys.
John, they tried to. They said, we don't have any record of you leaving the country. You've been in the country for 10 years. I was like, no, I haven't. I had to go to a military base. I had to go in by myself. My Hebrew is not good. I was like, can my mom come? They're like, no. So I had to go in by myself, very scary, and basically get interrogated by the head of the base because they were like, they had to make sure that I wasn't lying because when I left the country 10 years prior, it hadn't registered on like my state bio. And so they thought I was staying in the country but not serving military time. And I don't think
it would be a bad thing for you. It just I don't know what role do you think you would? You probably wouldn't be a ground troop.
No, I would do like the.
Well, you could communicate. You could be
the
on
radio shows. I'd go around the base.
Good morning, Jerusalem.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I'd be like, Maccabi Tel Aviv lost a tight one last night. Amari Stoudemire went for 26, and 42-year-old Omri Caspi
Isn't LeBron's old coach there? What's his name?
That's where he
David
came
Blatt?
from, David Blatt. I remember when Blatt got hired, my dad's uncle was visiting from Israel, and we went to lunch, and he was like, Blatt's like, they were trying to fire Blatt in Israel. I can't believe an American team just hired him.
How old were you when you were getting interrogated?
This was probably like maybe right after. I mean, I was probably, I don't know, 25, 26.
How nervous were you walking through
Pretty
the
nervous.
base?
Pretty
Were you
nervous.
afraid that like you might not be able to get out?
Yeah,
and you'd have to
I was
stay?
like, there's no way this isn't going to work. Like, I wasn't like afraid, but it's just, you start getting asked questions, even if you're not lying. It's not your first, I had an interpreter, and it was just kind of uncomfortable.
You ever fired a weapon?
No, my grandfather, my mom grew up on this kibbutz. What it means is like the people who live there would take turns guarding the front gate. So my grandpa had like multiple weapons just in a closet in the spare room, not like under lock and key, nothing, because it was just the people who live in these places, they're just part of the army. Like everyone's part of the army.
Did you take a post when you were staying there?
No, I would go with him though and just hang out in the front gate. He'd grab the gun and we just walk to the front gate and watch soccer until the shift was over.
So what happened? Like if someone comes, it's just
Nothing
on?
happened. Yeah, it's just you just let people in. You push the gate. You open the gate.
Has he ever had an issue?
I don't think there was ever really an issue. No, I mean,
Gotcha.
But we're on that place where my mom grew up. There's bomb shelters. Like they used to have those issues where you'd have to run in the bomb shelter. But
I think what he'd tell you is not preparing is preparing to fail. So you gotta come prepared.
Daniel says you could literally have a desk job like most of us in the military. All right. What are the odds, Ethan? What are the odds Belichick trades up for Fields? The trade's just sitting there at 7 or 8.
I can't fathom Justin Fields being there 7 or 8. Can't fathom it. 6'3.5", 4.41, 68 touchdowns, 9 picks. It's hard to just close your eyes and envision the scenario. I don't care like how raw his feet are in the pocket. Like Josh Allen, when football was easy, was like throwing 52% completion percentage. Like, come on. And people kind of wanted to take him 1 or 2 or 3,
That's
right? It was like,
Schefter said it the year prior, like this guy is going to go number 1.
Yeah, it was like, but the stats were so bad. People were like, I don't know if we can quite pull this off. But I bet there are people, clearly regret it, right?
Yep.
If you could do it over, he would have gone 1. And now we're getting a guy that's 69% for 2 years at Ohio State with those stats, and he's going to go 7. We just had a guy very similar, but who was actually productive and beat Clemson, who's going to go 7. Like, just do the math. It doesn't add up, guy. Can you see Justin Fields going 7 or 8?
No.
It would be a statistical anomaly, given his physical attributes and his production. Because the first time, just the buzz, and we talked about this on Friday's podcast, is like, what did he throw? Like 40 touchdowns, 20 picks, and you look, you're like, wait, is this Trevor Lawrence's stat page? The stat page is pretty eye-opening.
What if you went like 13 and then draft night it came out like Orlovsky was right? Would the internet owe Orlovsky an apology?
I've talked to enough people to know that Orlovsky's not right. And he's embraced it.
I know. He's had to go hard pivot the other way. I'd take him. I know
One take I think is a little overrated because unless you're like Tiger Woods, even Michael Jordan watching that documentary wasn't necessarily thinking this. I hate this saying. He wants to be great. Like, I think you want to be great once you kind of figure it out. Like, I think college players want to be really good. They want to get drafted really high. And then I think the more mature you get, you realize how it's attainable. But, like, he really wants to be great. I hear that a lot, and it's like,
yeah,
dude,
I want to be
20
great,
years
but I
old.
also feel like a nap. So
yeah, but it's more
I need a
understandable.
coach.
Like, I think our age or something, like, you want to. I think it's harder to think, like, what percentage, even of the most talented people at 20 years old, truly, I think they say it because they hear it said. They want to be good. They work hard.
1,000%. I think so much now it's so easy to figure out how to fake it. And fake it doesn't mean you're a fraud necessarily. It's just you might not have had the experience yet that gives you the confidence that you now know how to project. Every quarterback interview's on TV. Everyone's being taught all the methods to try and psych themselves up, which again, that stuff can work, but it makes it a little harder to play detective and figure out who's.
Do you think that's why
faking it
that's why Michael his rookie year was like, I walked in the hotel room, Jimmy's over there with cocaine, Billy's over there with 2 hookers, and I'm like, guys, I'm just rookie Michael Jordan from North Carolina. I'm not into hookers and cocaine and gambling. I'm out.
I'm out.
He was naming them. And it was like, Michael, you threw everyone under the bus. There's got to be no better feeling than narrating your own documentary. It's like, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, my wife now. Hookers blow everywhere. I said, no, I'm the bigger man. See ya. That was the highlight, at least one of them, of the documentary.
It was
claiming
it was the one, and him grabbing
and how
the
seamless
iPad.
he transitioned. He was like, I'm just this naive kid from North Carolina, and they're doing drugs. I would love to know the real story.
Well, like I
Maybe, and honestly, it might have happened, but like the Michael we know now, ain't just like walking out of the party. At the time, he might have been a little bit, right?
yeah, it's possible.
They were a clown operation, right? Maybe he just like, who are these guys? But usually guys, you just kind of, even if you turn stuff down, you just kind of gravitate to your teammates or your coworkers. You just try to fit in, right? Even Michael would,
Absolutely. It's like
I got Billy Tolliver over here smoking meth.
if
I was like,
anyone
what are you
that's
doing?
anyone that has seen that show that I mentioned to you, Righteous Gemstones with Danny McBride, there's a scene at the end of the first season, which is basically exactly what you described, where he gets blackmailed for doing a bunch of coke with hookers, and he calls all the other guys that he did it with and their wives to a meeting to show. He's like, I have to exonerate myself, and he shows them the tape, and all the other guys are like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I had to come clean. He's like, why did you have to include all of us in this? That was MJ, basically.
It was incredible.
All right. Longest mailbag ever, but worth it. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging. Subscribe to the YouTube. Like the YouTube video. And, we'll be doing a live stream on draft night, so get ready for that.
Guy, I just looked up Spieth and Justin Thomas tied for second right now on Rose's heels.
Hell yeah.
You would guess right. Does Justin Rose hang on to this thing?
Hang on to win? No.
Yeah.
But I feel like he hangs around. He's
Yeah.
not a cracker.
No. You're probably he did say Scott Van Pelt yesterday after he shot 7 under. He's like, yeah, I didn't even know where my game was coming into the tournament. I was like, whoa.
Not ideal. He took a few swings today early in the round. I saw that were terrible. Like, one of those, like, he swings, like, takes an arm off, and then just, like, starts dropping the club before the ball's even landed.
I do give him a little credit. Like, at like 8 or 9 in the morning, I look up. He's 4. He was like 3 over. I'm like, God, he's going to blow up. He did kind of get it back.
Did.
I mean,
Yeah. All right, everybody.
Peace.